What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 1 of the Unapologetic Male podcast, where we talk about all things related to self improvement, leveling up, and just overall increasing our quality of lives in this world. Now, it is titled The Unapologetic Male, and I am targeting the male audience as I am a man and I speak from a male perspective, but I do definitely think that women can benefit from the advice and the things that I say, as well as, you know, I throughout this podcast, I'm going to be talking about various topics related to um, making more money, financial savviness, making smart decisions, right? Leveling up, hustling and bustling, getting over your feelings and just deciding to go after and get after it every day you know. As I'm sure you're aware, and I am, we are on this planet, we are on this life, right? So my own personal philosophy is rather than complaining and making excuses for the economy and inflation or whatever. Obviously I understand that it is a very tough time, but there's two things you can do. You can do nothing about it and complain and bitch and moan, or you can just get after it and fall in love with the grind. As cliche as that is, but fall in love with it, man. Embrace it and choose to live every day as if it's great and just keep going on. Ultimately life ends in the same place. But my personal belief is that in life you should choose to pursue and attain the highest quality of life as possible. So for episode 1, I wanted to discuss the topic and title this first episode of the podcast, what it means to be a man in 2025. So in my personal perspective, um, the role of a man and what a man should pursue in life has changed dramatically from the primitive and ancient, right, definition of a man. Now, many of the things that we do are similar, right? But I think that men in 2025 should pursue a completely different goal from the traditional and kind of ancient sense, right? We live in a new age with technology and an abundance, and artificial intelligence, and all this crazy stuff. And I don't believe that the traditional, that, your grandparents probably, how they lived, right? Because they didn't have access to all the things that we have. Even then, I think that maybe this is probably an ideology that you've probably seen adopted by many successful men. I haven't really studied into people probably like, your CEOs and billionaires and Rockefellers and whatever it may be. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is that the modern man in 2025, if you want, and I'm not talking about being an average man, right? This podcast is dedicated to excellence and choosing a life of prosperity and abundance and just being the highest version of yourself possible, right? Now, in 2025, my personal opinion is that a man needs to focus solely on personal growth. And I hope that I'm reaching some younger listeners. Myself, I'm not all that old. I am getting up there though. I am almost 30. I'm 28 as we speak right now. But as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot of these things, and I feel like I have wisdom that is beyond my years that I can pass down to you. For example, I know for a fact that if 28-year-olds sat across the room from a 20-year-old version of myself, the 20-year-old version of myself would probably go out of that meeting, one, being so much further ahead in life. He would have basically figured it all out, and where he would be in 8 years versus I would be tremendously further ahead, right? So the modern man in 2025, really solely, I'm gonna be very blunt on what a man should make his only priority. Because if you're young, right, you're hormone filled, you're crazed, you're probably sex crazed, you're probably woman crazed, like I was too. I love women, they're beautiful, right? But women in general, in the interaction between, in the pursuit of women, in the creation of family, in 2025 is the biggest hindrance and destructive force that is going to prevent you from unlocking your highest version of yourself. There's a lot of people who disagree with that and are going to agree, but I wanted you to think about something for a second, right? For many of my years, I worked in restaurants, right? So I got to observe a lot of things. And one of the things that always stood out to me was men who had families, right? Now, children are not cheap. Children are very expensive, right? And if you want to be the highest version of yourself, you need to be as financially prosperous as you possibly can become. And if you create, like, think about how difficult it might be for you right now to just take care of yourself financially. Now, clone yourself 3 times and then try to take care of them by yourself. It's insane. And what I noticed with a lot of these men these family men that would come into the restaurants I worked at is they looked exhausted and hopeless, right? I hope they made good money, but in reality, you got to think about this, right? In America, I think the mean or the median income earner makes around $44,000 a year, which means that half of Americans make more than 44,000 and half of Americans make less. So in America, there's what, about 350 million people? A lot of this is going to be estimates, but we're going to be ballpark estimates. Maybe I'm a dozen feet off or so. But, right? So that means that there is like 125 if we account for children, 125 to 100 million people that make less than $44,000 a year. And then if we account for like the 60 to 65, this is an estimate, but we're probably looking at, I would say 200 million people make less than $60,000 a year in America, right? I would say 2/3 of the population, 65 to 66% of Americans, I am guessing, make less than $65,000 a year, just based on my observation of the type of jobs that are available, the type of labor that's available, right? And to truly succeed and to truly have savings as a single man, right? Because $60,000 is not a lot after you take into account for taxes. If you want to build retirement savings, you're going to need to make at least $80,000 right now, and I would say 100 is probably what you should strive for at the minimum. Now, that's not easy by any means. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that are trying to sell you courses online and scam you that are like, oh yeah, I make $200,000, $300,000 so easy. And then you see everyone talking about it and you're like, oh yeah, making $250,000 a year is the easy. No, if it was easy, everyone would do that. Less than 1% of the population, I believe, makes more than $250,000 a year. Less than 1%, right? So that means in America, there is 320 million people that make less than $250,000. So if you happen to be the 1%, that's great. But a lot of times people who become the 1%, right? Not all, but many, are gifted businesses, right? Or they're taught, right, by people who have the wisdom and knowledge that are rich on how to acquire riches. If you are born into a poor environment, you have some disadvantages going against you. You have a lack of education, right? Your parents might not know how to make money. If your parents don't know how to make money, how are they supposed to teach you how to make money? But that's what's great about the internet, is that it allows you to access various different avenues of intelligence by listening to people speak, by researching, and so we have some great tools at our disposal that our parents didn't have, that our grandparents didn't have, that allow us to learn and allow us to engage and consume the knowledge and insight of many people, right? And we can do it while listening rather than having to read books, which is great. So we can do it in our free time. So being a man in 2025. Right, because I've already gone and touched on how you should avoid a family. I think if you're a single young man and you're hearing this, and if you're above 35 and you have kids, you probably you can still take this advice. I'm not going to say this advice. I think is universal. It can be applied to women. It can be applied to men, but obviously I understand there's going to be certain circumstances and situations that you might have to adapt. And my philosophy to your own situation, and that's fine, because to break down in a more simplistic term, the things that I believe that every man should work as hard as he possibly can every day, and every man should make as much money as he possibly can. Every man should maximize every second of his time as much as he possibly can to be as efficient, to be as productive, and to just maximize every single second that you have into acquiring the resources that it's going to take for you to become a prosperous man. If you do have a family, this is what you need to do, because I see this far too often. You need to take care of your damn kids, all right? I say that jokingly, but I mean that in all seriousness. Nothing upsets me more, and this is my personal philosophy when it comes to children. Nothing upsets me more than people who don't make it their uh, utmost priority to increase the quality of life of their offspring, right? I don't know if you know this, but your children do not have a choice for existence, right? And so, time and time again, I see people who bring their children into this world under the worst possible circumstances, and they do nothing to improve it for them, right? Think about the environments that people are born into. Why would you want to recreate life and and subject life to the traumas and hardships that you do yourself, right? If you have a kid, you need to get your shit together and get after it and be a man, or just be a good person about it, right? My personal belief is that you should do everything in your power every single second that you spend waking, right? To create an environment and create systems for your offspring to thrive in this world. I'm talking you need to be creating, you need to be working a second job. If you have, this is, if you have kids, and honestly, if you don't have kids, just do this for yourself, right? Um, but if you have a kid, you need to be working a second job. You don't need to be living paycheck to paycheck. You need to make sure that you are setting aside money every month for this child's education, right? Because if your child is uneducated, they're not going to get out of their circumstance. They are not going to get out of poverty. It's very unlikely. They need to be educated, right? Think about it. You could save up and your child could go to college to become a nurse. Your child can become an engineer, or your child can become a plumber. Something that is going to allow them to thrive in and live in this upper middle class type of livelihood, which I think is honestly paradise. I think if you are upper middle class and you make $80,000 a year, I think you're living in heaven if you are in the United States. Just point blank period. If you look historically at where humans have come from, and you look at how much life used to suck like 200 years ago. If you are in America, in an American city, you make $80,000 a year, you are living in heaven. You have food, you have electricity, you have air conditioning, right? And so this is what it means to be a man in 2025. If you have a kid, you don't need to be bitching and moaning and groaning. I see this time. You don't need to be doing drugs. You don't need to be drinking too much, crying all the time, whining, right? You need to be getting after it, right? You need to be embracing the suck. And in general, every man and every human being, honestly, needs to embrace the suck. Life sucks, right? I don't know. I've kind of come to this kind of sadistic, not sadistic. What's the word I'm looking for? Someone that someone that loves pain. I think it's anyway. So it's like MACH, masochistic view where I kind of like pain, right? I'm like, and I feel like the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. But I like pain. I'm okay with getting no sleep and working and to be perfectly honest with you, I work 80 hours a week. I do, and I love it. I don't have an off day. I am constantly working on something, whether I'm making content or I am making music or I'm working or I work two jobs. I do sales and I do, have a night job, a day job. And again, I'm embracing the suck. And I think that, we can complain all we want, right, about who the president is. We can complain about what the economy is. But if you don't put in the work, no one's going to do it. Kamala Harris wasn't going to save you. Barack Obama wasn't going to save you. Donald Trump is not going to save you. You think Donald Trump is just going to cut you a check for $100K a year? No, right? He's not going to do it. So why complain about something that's not going to get changed? But you can change it, right? And so, again, this goes back to what a man should do, what a man should strive to be. So how do you obtain this financial prosperity? Well, I think you need to pursue knowledge. I think you need to be in never-ending pursuit of knowledge, in improving knowledge. And I'm not saying, right, you can have your breaks. You can take some time off, watch some anime. I'm an anime nerd. I love watching anime. I'll watch anime every now and then. I'll watch TV, right? But think about this, right? There's 24 hours in every day. 24 hours in every day. You need to sleep. I sleep like 5 to 6, right? I don't really care for sleeping that much. I'll get my rest and wake up and get after it. So for 16 hours a day, I'm thinking about ideas and how do I get money and how do I improve my life? How do I do this? How do I do that right? How can we use AI to do this? Blah, 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 whatever, right? So 24 hours in every day. Let's say you sleep 7 to 8. That means you have, if you sleep 8, you have 16 hours every day. 16 hours every day. What are you doing with your 16 hours, right? What are you doing? Most people work 8. Okay, so what are you doing with the other 8? You have kids and commitments. I understand. You got to do what you got to do. But let's talk to the single man for a second, and maybe the married man with kids can get something from this too, right? But if you're a young single man, right, and you have no obligations, what are you doing all day? Are you playing video games? Why? You're wasting your time. You know you're only getting older, right? You're not going to stop time. Time is undefeated. You're playing video games? What are you doing? Are you watching porn? So, and yeah, you can say, oh, well, I don't have the energy, I don't have this, I don't have that, blah. Okay, well, make the excuse. Make the excuse. I promise you, you can keep making the same excuse, you're going to be in the same spot. No one cares about the excuses you make. Life does not care. God does not care, right? God does not care that you were feeling tired. He does not. And I'm not saying you need to go out and do back-breaking, laborious labor. I think you should do quite the opposite. I think you need to pursue an education and find some sort of skill or field where you can, work smarter and work hard and not harder, right? And so, I want to say this though too: avoid the trap. Avoid the trap of people with big ideas and grand ideas and these delusions of grandeur that you'll see on the internet. I've fallen for it when I was younger. I thought it was going to be so easy. Start an internet business. No, I think you need to pursue a skill and pursue knowledge that can help improve and contribute to the preservation of society. Let's look at some of our highest earners, right? Because obviously, we're going to neglect CEOs and things like that. I want to talk about people who make good money, right? Doctors make good money. What do doctors do? They help people, right? And there's all types of doctors. There's surgeons, there's heart surgeons, neurosurgeons. There's podiatrists, people who work on feet. There's, I don't know the name is for ear doctors. There's ear doctors. There's back doctors. There's all sorts. And you could be a nurse. You could be a, paramedic or whatever. But what did those people do? Those doctors that are making a lot of money and live in a very nice house, they pursued knowledge and a skill set that allowed them to help improve humanity. And if you look at some of the positions in the world that make good money, that's what people are doing, right? For example, one of the things that I do is I do truck driving, right? Truck driving is a needed necessity, right? You're helping with the logistics supply chain of America to help keep grocery shelves stocked, right? To keep food coming in and putting them on the shelves of Walmart, right? What can you do? And so I think if you're young and you don't know what you're going to do and you want to make money, right? Because obviously people can say, well, do what you love, do. Okay, well, that's great. Well, what if I love playing Minecraft? Okay, well, you can be a streamer, but what are the odds of you actually becoming a streamer, right? You need to start thinking about these things. Have a side hustle, have a hobby, but don't make that your main priority unless it starts to take off, right? You don't need to be thinking that's your plan A, right? Or your plan B, because think about, again, go back to the history of humanity, right? For thousands and thousands of years, all we were doing was farming and fishing, staying alive. That's it. And so we live in such an odd time where we have so much excess that we have become deluded to what nature actually is. And there's people that still live the same way they've been living for thousands of years. You can go to these people in the Amazon rainforest and these tribes and people in certain, areas of Africa. What are they doing? They're farming and fishing. That's it, right? Because at the end of the day, life is just about eating and sleeping, maybe having a roof under your head until you die. That's it. You're going to do it every day until you die. So, yeah, it's cool. People can do cool things in our society. They can become Minecraft streamers or whatever. They can become video game players. They can become basketball players. They can become athletes. But that's your top of, one of the things I love to do. I love to play Rocket League. That's like the only video game I play. I play Rocket League. I think it's very fun. Am I ever going to be a professional League player? No, never, never. And the guys that are good at it are so good. That's how there's like what? There's like 50 of them, right? Out of the millions of people that play, that's less than 1%. That's like less than 0.0001% chance that you have becoming like a pro Rocket League player. And that's in most things like that. So yeah, you might enjoy something, you might have a hobby, but I think what you need to do is find something that is rewarding, that helps advance society and helps preserve society. For example, right? And again, I have the knowledge that I have, and I'm trying to learn more. So, if you come across this and you have something that like, hey, I do this, and this is what I do, and I make a lot of money, and it helps advance society, right? But for example, right, plumbing, electricians, HVAC guys. I'm in the South. It's extremely hot. HVAC isn't a necessity, So, and you don't need to be the guy installing. Maybe you can be the guy that's like the engineer, right? An HVAC engineer here, doing the blueprints, right? Um, Architects, right? Designing houses, and maybe be a city planner, right? And designing sewage systems and plumbing. We need people to maintain the electric grid, right? We need people to maintain the roads, all of these things, right? And so, but you don't need to be, breaking your back doing manual labor. I don't think so. But just make it an effort to look at the world and be like, what can I do that would help people? That would help people, that's needed to be done, that I can make money doing. Because the things that make the most money, in my experience, are things that are consistent and done every day and are needed, right? Like the food industry. People have to eat food every day, right? So restaurant doors don't ever close because people's stomachs don't ever stop turning, right? People have to eat every day. They have to drink water every day. So you start thinking, well, how can I get involved in this food thing, right? How can I get involved in this food? People get sick. How can I get involved in making people healthy, right? People's stuff breaks down, right? Cars break down. And unfortunately, in America, we have to drive cars everywhere, right? So, well, how can I make cars better for people? Just start thinking along those lines, Start thinking along those lines. And that, as far as young men who might be looking for something to do. And I think if you start looking along those lines and you start saying that I'm going to pursue a career where I contribute to the advancement of humanity, I think you're going to find that in a decade from now, you're going to be doing very well off in life. And well, what is well off, right? Let's get down to it, right? Because we need to learn how to become the highest version of ourselves possible, right? What is a modern day man? What is a man in 2025, right? And these are my own personal beliefs and opinions, but I think, a lot of these beliefs and opinions, they come from studying, right? I like to study rich people. I like to study Warren Buffett. I like to study billionaires. I like to learn their habits and their behaviors because, right, one of the things that I started seeing from a very young age was suffering of old people. Now, I'm not a fan of old people. I'm not. But not all of them. Some old people suck. I used to work in restaurants. Some of the most like craziest, angriest experiences I've ever had have been with old people, right? And you know why? Because these old people did not embrace the philosophies that I embraced. They did not. They did the dumbest thing possible, right? They lived the most average, mediocre life. They probably have no savings, no retirement. And so now their body hurts. They're tired. They have no money, right? And they're just waiting to die. And they're angry, right? And all these things compound, right? Pain can make you do crazy things. It can make you a crazy person. So what I study, because this is what I'm getting at, right? You need to set yourself up for retirement. You do. You need to be thinking about it now. And because here's the fact, right? I believe in America, people leave, the average life expectancy is above 70. I believe it's at least above 65. It's above 70, I'm pretty sure. So that means more than likely you're going to live to be at least 70, right? Unless I don't know, are you going to jump off a mountain? I hope you don't, right? Most people aren't. Most people just simply don't. Humans, we are genetically programmed to survive. So people will just keep going and going and going until they can't, until they stop. They drop dead. That's how it works. So you can say, "Oh, well, you can't predict the future. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This and that." Okay, well, but statistics prove that most people will make it to 70. So, more than likely, you're going to make it to 70, which means you need to start thinking about retiring now, right? Because when you make it to 50, you are not going to be the same human being that you were. You're not going to have the same energy. Your body is going to be breaking down. You're not going to be the same person you are when you're in your mid to young 20s. I promise you. I used to think that, oh man, I'm going to have this, to be this elite athletic performance person. I can do this and that. And I started having back problems at 25, right? I can't even really run right now. I hurt my back very recently just running. And so, I can lift some weights and stuff like that, but I can't. I used to love playing basketball. That's all I would do, play basketball every day. And the thought of playing basketball is so painful to me because just from running, I hurt myself so bad that I'm not even going to risk it. And I'm only 28 years old, you know? And I thought, I was like, oh, LeBron, he can be 40, right? I can do it too. Well, obviously LeBron has more resources to take care of his body than I do. And he might not have the genetic predisposition to having a bad back. Maybe that's something that runs my family. So that's what I'm getting at, right? Your body is going to break down. You're not going to be able to be 22. You're not going to have the same knees you were at 22 when you're 40. But here's what you can do. Start saving money. Start thinking about it, right? I'm not going to get into investing because I'm not a financial advisor. But, uh, I think that in general, and this is the words that I've gotten from Warren Buffett, right? Just look up index funds. Know what index funds are, right? The S&P 500, the Dow Jones. What are those things, right? Well, those are just indexes that track the most valuable in companies with the most amount of revenue and market cap, which is money invested into them in the United States. So think about this, right? So on average, and I read this in the Dave Ramsey book, where he stated that mutual funds will typically grow on an average of 6 to 8% interest annually a year. Why is that? Well, again, this goes back to advancing humanity, right? This goes back to things that are necessities, right? Where you make money, things that are always churning out, right? So one of the things that I've heard from some very successful people, such as Warren Buffett, is that people keep eating and wiping their butt every day. So if people are eating and wiping their butt, hopefully not at the same time, right? That you need to find the stocks that give the people the food and give the people the toilet paper, right? So the S&P 500, if you look at the companies that are contained within it are the companies that provide the most essentials, not all of them, right? But the things that people consume the most, whether it be food, right? Whether it be iPhones with Apple, so food with companies like Walmart, right? Whether it be with oil and gas. And so index funds basically aggregate and combine all of your largest companies. So the S&P 500, it's the 500 largest companies in America, I believe. So think about this, because, right, if we get into the stock market and savings, right, because if you put your money into a 401k, which is a retirement savings account, more than likely, it's just being invested in the index fund. I've looked at my 401ks and I was like, oh, this is just an index fund, right? I own a percentage of Home Depot and Apple and Walmart and Johnson and Johnson, all these big companies and corporations and whatever it may be. So why and what makes investing into the S&P 500 really not as much of a risk? And I'm not saying you should put all your money into it. Definitely don't. Have some cash savings. I totally believe in that. Because there have been down years in the stock market. There's been in my research, I believe there was like a 30-year downtrend where the S&P 500 and Dow Jones and overall market actually descended in value. So you would have actually lost money for like 30 years. Now, we've been in an incredible bull run where the market has only been going up for like the last 34 years. It's been incredible. So hopefully that keeps going. There definitely was a period of time where the stock market was going down for considerably, like a long period of time. But in general, it'll go up 6 to 8% a year, right? So if it ends up going down, well, that kind of sucks, right? But, the most traditional way that people have become rich and retired is by putting your money into an index fund and regularly investing every year And then after, 30 to 40 years or so, because they've saved $10,000 every year, right? So you do the math on that. And I'm not going to do it with compounding interest and everything because I'm not going to bring out a calculator. But, 30 years goes by, you've been putting $10,000 a year into your 401k. Eventually now it's making, or after 30 years, it's $300,000. It's making 8% a year. 300,000 was that it's $24,000 a year if you're making 8% a year in interest. So yeah, there's your retirement money, right? You have 300k saved up. That's after 30 years, and that 300k with 8% interest is making $24,000 a year, right? Now some people do the math, and now if you put $20,000 a year in that, now it's making $48,000 a year. So that's what people do. They're like, oh, well, I have $600,000. I'll buy a house and I have this and I can work a little part-time job or whatever. So, but that's what you need to start researching this yourself and learning these things, right? And learning how to make your money grow, how to grow your money, right? Hopefully your company has a good 401k or savings account that you can get into. Me personally, I like to keep a percentage as an index fund and a percentage cash. And then, I keep a little bit of cryptocurrencies. I'm not going to lie. Keep a little bit on Bitcoin and the top 10 cryptos. I think they're kind of cool. I don't keep everything on them, but just a little bit, right? I mean, they've been going up, and there's some cool stuff that I use with cryptocurrency. Like, we won't get into that. But anyway, you need to be thinking about retirement now, right? Retirement is not something you think about tomorrow. It's not something you think about in a year. You need to be thinking about, how do I set myself up so when my back starts breaking down, my knees are bad, I don't have to work. And so if you're a young person, I'm going to start kind of teaching you some basic principles, right? Because this is why people don't save, because they spend, and they don't see, I guess they don't get the same dopamine rush that they do from spending or from just doing a little bit extra, right? Maybe getting a second job, right? Let's break it down like this. So if you are working 40 hours a week, you need to be working more. Just point blank period. Unless you're making a lot of money. If you have a 40-hour job and, you're making 100k a year, that's great. Don't work anymore, right? Maybe have a little creative hobby or something like that. But if you are a young man, you're making like 16 to 18 an hour, right? You need to be working more. You need to find something else, because you make that 40 hours of income, make that your living expense money, right? It's rent money, car note, insurance, food, whatever. If you get a second source of income and you set aside $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year, right? And so that $500 doesn't seem like a whole lot. You're like, whatever. Okay, so let's do the math on this though, right? So you're 22 and you start saving $6,000 a year. By the time you're 32, what is that? That's $60,000. By the time you're 42, that is $120,000. So by the time you're 52, it's now $180,000, all from $500, just from $500. $180,000 a year at 52. I've met a lot of people that are old people, and they don't have $200,000. They don't have $180,000. Don't you think you'd be much more comfortable at that age with $180,000 of savings? Probably, right? There's people who will make it and they won't have a dollar. They'll live off their Social Security check, which is like nothing, really anything. It's like less than $1,000 most people get for Social Security. And I've seen it time and time again. People are like, yeah, I get a Social Security check and that's about it. And I work in subprime automotive lending, and I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of old people who had no money and that was all they had, and they don't have the energy to work anymore. Or they had bad knees, bad hips, or whatever, So then let's do the math on what if you do more than 500, right? So for example, we'll stop at 52, right? Which is before most people's retirement age. If it's $1,000 a month, that 180 is now 360,000. That's 1,500. That 360,000 is now $540,000. If it's 2,000, it's now $720,000. You saved up 11 years. So with $720,000, right? You're gonna be great. You're gonna be probably feeling like way more comfortable, and you're gonna be feeling fantastic, right? At the top of the world. And you're 52. You can probably make $1 million by the time you're 60 if you're at that rate. So again, this goes back to, you need to be hustling and getting after it every day. If you're working 40 hours a week, you need to find some way to get that extra $1,000, right? Because what do most people do? most young men do. They get off work, they go play video games till they sleep, and they get up, and they eat their dinner, go shower, sleep, rinse, repeat. That's it. That's all they do. And why? Why are you doing that? Right? You're only going to get older. Don't you want to, eventually not work? So again, a modern man in 2025, financial prosperity. You need to be thinking about retirement and savings. You need to be thinking about a career that's going to be rewarding, that's going to help you contribute to the advancement of society in some essential industry, right? Think about eating, health, right? Water, power, electricity, anything that has to do with anything that supports life, right? Now, let's get into some more controversial topics that I'm going to talk about, right? And this goes against human nature, but, right, in reality, I think this is the biggest pitfall of every man, is sex. I think sex is the biggest detriment to men's success. It is. It is. And I think I said this earlier, but you need to be really careful with having sex. And, I've been in plenty of relationships, right? I just got out of a 4-year relationship, and I pulled out every time, and I'm lucky because that's not a great way to do it still. And now at this point, I think I'm just gonna kind of abstain for a while, because having a kid is gonna drastically alter your life, right? It is going to change the time that you have. You're going to have a real serious commitment to preserving that life, right? So, and this is what I'm getting at, all right? So, as a young man, and let's get into this. Let's talk about women, right? Let's talk about, as a young man, maybe you're feeling like you're not so great with the ladies, right? And how do you get better with women? And I'll say this, I have gotten so much better with women the older I've gotten. When I was 18 through 22, yeah, I had some, but in general, I was not great with women. I was terrible. And then now I do pretty good with them. And you know why I do great with women? Because I don't pay attention to them. I don't care about women. I don't care. And they love that. They do. And the pursuit of women is the stupidest, now that I'm looking back in hindsight. And I stopped pursuing women when I was like 23, 24. I started realizing, I was like, you know what? This is kind of dumb. What am I doing? Right? I'm just fulfilling this like stupid primitive urge that was an essential need at some point, right? To build the tribe. That's what people did for years. They had to keep life going, right? They had to build the tribe, right? So we could survive, so we could have more people to farm and more people to protect us, our village with bears and lions and tigers and oh my, right? So I think you should just stop caring about women. I think you should just ignore them completely. Pretend that women don't even exist. Pretend that the only thing on this planet this is what you need to change: your horniness and your sexual energy, and put all of that energy and effort and thought into making money, right? Every time I talk to some guy and it's some freaking mediocre meathead average dude, and he's like, oh, look at that girl's tits, look at her ass. I'm like, is that what goes on in your brain? Is that what you're thinking about? And then you come to find out he's got 2 kids. And then I'll just probe him. I like to ask people questions. I like to see where their mind's at. I'm like, okay, well, how old are your kids? Oh, oh, it's great. What are you doing about their retirement, their college savings fund? Huh? What? Oh, well, what are you doing about how much money have you saved to help them purchase their first car? I don't know. But you're walking around the job and you're, look at her ass, look at her tits. Like a moron, right? So women are very dangerous to men, right? Women are, the interaction with a woman can destroy your ability to be successful in this world, right? In my experience, women are, a lot of them, now in the modern day, they don't like to say it, but a lot of them don't want to work. They want you to take care of everything for them, right? Now, they'll say this and that, but they have a kid. This has been their nature for years. They've laid around the house and taken care of kids, right? That's what they've done. And that's a great deal. If I could do it, I would love to do it too. Have some man just pay for everything and keep the roof over the head, put food on the table. So I think if you really want to level up and you really want, and here's the thing, because if you adopt this approach to your life, women are going to be way more attracted to you. Because I promise you, ignore women. Don't care about them. They love that. They get pursued all day by creepy guys like us. We're like, hey, can I go on a date with you? And we're not really asking, can I go on a date with you? We're asking, can we fuck? Right? Can I fuck you? Can I come inside you? That's like, what is it? Can I get you pregnant? That's basically what we're fucking doing, right? That's what every single man does, right? Because a lot of us are born morons, and our hormones are so crazy when we're young. It's all we think about. Oh, how can I ejaculate? How can I ejaculate? How can I ejaculate? And women like sex too, right? Feels good for a lot of them. So, they have impulses and stuff too. But women get pursued all day by creepy men. So if you break that pattern, you instantly become more interesting in their eyes. And they're like, oh, something is different. Hold up. And then if you have been pursuing this and developing this habit of pursuing success, women love that even more. Because what does that mean? That means that you are a resource acquirer. You are a provider. And they love that. Because now they know, because this is what it boils down to. We are monkeys, right? We are monkeys. Look at chimpanzees and look at gorillas, right? You have the alpha male, and all he does is prove to the woman that he can protect them, and he can get the most bananas, right? That's what we're doing. We're just trying to show the girl monkeys that I'm the big man and I got the most bananas, right? And so think about the monkey that can only get one banana because he's been chasing around the women all day. And think about the monkey that has a pile of bananas, right? And has a big straw hut, a big house, right? He's got a big tent, big straw teepee, right? The woman's going to love that situation way more. You got a nice fire set up. You got your pile of bananas, so you got plenty of food. She's going to feel way more comfortable. She's going to love that more, right? So, give up on the pursuit of women and fall in love with the pursuit of success, right? The right woman is going to come along if you're pursuing success. But if you're pursuing women, the only thing that's going to end up is you're going to have a kid and you're going to have a family. And if that's what you want, that's cool. Hey, but I don't think that's a great life. I don't think having 2 to 3 kids and living in an apartment, because houses are like $500,000. So, hey, man, you want to pay $3,200, $3,400 for a mortgage? Yeah, that's fine. It's fine, right? Go ahead. Good luck, right? Hopefully you have a good job. I hope you do. But that's the only where it's going. Because that's all it is. It's a primitive drive for procreation, right? Forget about women. Focus all of your concern on money, on making money, right? Because women love money. They do, right? The more money you have, the more attractive you're going to be to a woman. Younger girls love older men, and this is why. Because older men are successful. Older men have been in their careers. They have comfort. They have savings. They have everything they have, right? If you have a nice house and you have savings and you have that, women love that. They're going to try to manipulate you with sex so they can get it. That's what they want. They want to be able to lay down on a couch in a nice house and not do anything because that's their nature, right? They're for the most part, their nature is to have babies, right? That's what they've been doing. So they have the babies, they live in the house, you take care of it, they become a stay-at-home mom. They don't have to worry about money. So you have the choice. Once you become successful, you have the choice. Okay, well, do I want to have that kid? Right? Maybe I do. Or do I want to not? Either way, it's going to be a lot easier to court a woman when she's like, oh, well, can I see your place? And you bring her back to a real nice condo or a real nice house, and you got $200,000 of savings worth of confidence. I promise you, you're going to speak to the ladies a lot better. You're going to handle them a lot better. They're going to see it, right? So let's go to the next topic. And this has been a long one. So, and I'll touch on these topics a little bit more. What is a man in 2025? I think to become what a modern day man should be in 2025, I think this will be my next topic because we're talking about success. Well, how do you acquire success? Well, I'm going to say the second greatest hindrance to success, and maybe it's tied for first, is materialism, right? I think the successful man in 2025 needs to understand the pattern of psychological manipulation that's at play from the material industry, right? And what's the material industry? Clothes, cars, right? Things like that. Clothing and cars, I think, are the big ones. Shoes, right? All that. We are in a unprecedented level of targeted manipulation by brands. Just a fact. Never before has there been some billionaire that's been able to have a artificially intelligent run database where he can say, hey, show my ad in front of this person whose search history matches these things that I'm looking for, right? You ever talked about like how you wanted a pair of shoes and the next thing you saw on your phone on Instagram was an ad for those shoes? That's insane. It's never happened before. So in order to truly become successful, you need to understand and you need to think about things in a more simplistic terms, right? Because what's the difference between a Gucci shirt and a shirt from Walmart? Nothing. They cover your tits. That's it. That's all it is. And that's how I think about it. The difference between it's a brand, it's a picture. Most people pay 10 times more for a picture. And why? Why? Oh, well, it makes me cooler. So there you go. There's a flaw. That's a fatal flaw that you have. You care about what other people think about you. Who the fuck cares? And again, right? Oh, well, it makes the women look like they'll think I have more money. Oh, well, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to spend money on women and waste money on alcohol, and who cares about that, right? But why do you care about impressing people? Clothes is clothes. The only thing it does is cover your tits, and your pants and your underwear cover your dick. So why do you want to spend more for something that serves the same purpose? You know, I don't get it. I don't. And so you need to understand the dangers that are presented by materialism, right? And this is something that Dave Ramsey talks about, which is living beyond your means, right? So let's say you do get the money. Let's say you do get that good job and you're making 80K, 100K, 120, whatever it is. You're six figures. This is where most people go wrong. They start overspending, right? Materialism. Because what do you really need to survive, right? What do you need to be happy? I think to be happy, for me personally, I like having a nice apartment. I have a car. I have food. That's all I need. Right? I wake up every day. It's great. I wake up and I go and I try to make a lot of money, and I'd rather have a lot of money than less money. I'd rather have more. So if you need to simplify the things that make you happy, I think a lot of people fall into this trap of, oh, well, I can have a boat. I can have a Mercedes. Why? What do you need a Mercedes-Benz for? What do you need these fancy things for? What do you need luxury items for? Like, like having a Toyota versus having a Mercedes. Like, so what? So you can go to work? Like, it's insane to me. I'm like, people will spend triple just to do the same thing. Like, you'll have a Mercedes-Benz just so you can go to work, when the old Toyota would have gotten you to the same place for like $30,000 to $40,000 less. I don't know. I just always have the kind of like, why spend more when I can spend less? It doesn't really make sense to me. Same with clothes, Obviously, hey, I like Nikes. I like Nike. That's my brand. That's really the only brand I'm loyal to, because I was an athlete when I was younger. And so Nikes always felt better on my feet. They always felt better. The material when I played sports, always Nike cleats, Nike shoes, because Nike socks. And so, yeah, if I'm going to do something like athletic, I'm going to have Nikes on, right? But for the most part, I don't care, man. I'll have a $10 t-shirt. I'm not trying to attract attention, and I don't care about what women think about me, because the only thing I care about is the numbers in my bank account and the cash that I have in my safe. That's all. That's all you should care about, right? Because what really is going to define you? Is it that Gucci label on your chest? Or is it the money that you got, the comfort that you got, the house that you got, the apartment, that whatever it may be, right? And so be very, very careful and very aware that all the times you are being manipulated and targeted by brands to believe that, um, that being a consumer is what's going to make you happy. Look at look at all the musicians, right? All the lyrics that you hear. It's done intentionally. Now these musicians, some of them are stupid. They might not know it, but behind every single like major rap song, most of them, there's some executive sitting in an office saying, "Oh my God, he said Mercedes Benz 17 times in that song." And what's going to happen is that all these young kids, because they look up to these big rappers or these singers, they're going to hear that and they're going to see this guy in this music video, right, with this production budget, and he's going to look so happy. He's having a great time because he's got Gucci and he's got Versace and he's got Mercedes Benz, right? But it's all done intentionally. It's all done. So from the time you're very little, you look up to these guys that promote these brands and products, and you make it your life's mission to buy them. That's all they're doing is manipulating and indoctrinating you so they can make money off of you. That's what it is. So you need to be very aware. Next time you see anything in a music video on the TV, you need to think, why is this being shown to me, right? Oh, maybe it's because they want me to buy it, right? There's some rich guy that wants me to work hard so I can make him richer. It's that simple. And this will be my final point about materialism, because it goes back into even like the houses, the apartments, the cars, everything that in this economy, you need to be very, very cognizant of your budget and what you're spending, right? Because things are very subject to change, right? I'm always thinking about change. Now, you need to find the industry and career that can be the most consistent for you, right? That you can keep for 20 to 25, 30 years, right? But don't live beyond your means. Don't spend more money than you need to. Don't have a $500,000 house when the $250,000 house would have been just as good for you, right? Just so you can, have a nicer. It doesn't make any sense, right? Why? So you can go to sleep? You want to spend a quarter million more so you can go to sleep? It doesn't make sense, right? Why spend $2,200 a month on rent when you can live in a nice area and spend $1,400, right? That's like $10,000 in savings here. So to kind of wrap up and summarize this topic of what it means to be a man in 2025, just to become the highest level and highest version of yourself, you need to deviate from the norm, right? The average man is going to go to work, he's going to have a family, and that's it, right? You be a beast. You need to really channel that savage in your mind. We still have primitive tendencies. You need to become a little crazy, become a little psychotic. Wake up, be crazy. Man, I gotta get money. Where's this money at? Let me go get to it. I'm getting this money today. That's what you need to get into. You need to tap into that, because the economy is super inflated. Things cost a lot of money right now, just in relative to like the overall. If you look at the statistics, the overall purchasing power that we have for our dollar is way less than our parents did. Even 20 years ago, the purchasing power that we have is way less. So you got to adapt. You can't complain about this. You got to adapt and evolve. You got to become that savage. You got to get after it. Don't complain about it. And I promise you, and maybe I can't promise you because this is me, I fell in love with it. I fell in love and I'm passionate. Every day I wake up, man, let's go get some more money today. Let's do this. We're going to get after it. How do I get more? Let me find out. Let me go get it. And then, because what you'll eventually find is you'll start falling in love with your surroundings, right? You'll wake up and you'll be, man, I got this nice apartment. This is beautiful. I love it, right? I got good food in my stomach. I got a nice car. And maybe not a nice car. I don't really drive a nice car. I don't care for it. I hate cars, honestly. I'm not a car person. I hate cars. They're expensive. They break down. They're dumb. We should be riding horses, honestly. Anyway, I hate cities. They have concrete everywhere. It's ugly. Oh my gosh, the society, like the infrastructure evolved in such a gross way just so the freaking Ford and GM family could become rich at our expenses. But, become that savage and evolve. And every day, I'm telling you, start saving money, start getting after it. Ignore these women, bro. Don't care about these women, bro. I promise you. Take 5 years off. Take five. Take five. Is it going to kill you? No, it's not. Sex is not essential. You could go 10 years without sex and not die. I promise you. You can. You can't go 10 years without eating food or drinking water. You could go 20 years without sex and be just fine. Right? So you ignore, bro. Make it a challenge, bro. Say that you're not going to talk to a girl until you get $100,000 to your name. I promise you, do it. Say that you're not going to talk to a woman unless for 5 years. Make it a challenge. 5 years is a long time. I don't know. I like women. I love them. Women are beautiful. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna have my little, if I want to have a family, I'm gonna, have all my money and have just some hot girl just lay up in my house and have her work out all day, and she'll do whatever. Maybe give me $1,000 for rent, and I'll cook food for her, and she can just chill, anywhere. And that's because I'll choose that, So, but make success the primary thought of your goal. I have this philosophy that a lot in life you attract what you think. So if you're thinking bad thoughts, if you're thinking, man, life is tough, life sucks, that's what's going to happen for you. Life is going to be tough and it's going to suck. But if you think success, I'm going to be successful. How do I find success? Where's the success at? Where is the success? You're going to find it. Life is, you're going to become a magnet for it, and life is going to show it to you. But thanks again. If anyone stayed all the way through and listened, if you have any thoughts or anything, leave them in the comment section. I'd be more than willing to discuss and hear y'all's thoughts and everything. Again, this has been the Unapologetic Male Podcast, episode 1. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and we'll be back for another episode.